Ladies and gentlemen, this episode of the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast is sponsored by BusinessPodcasting101.com. That's BusinessPodcasting101.com, where you can learn how to podcast for fun and for your business. If you have a business, you should be updating your customers with a periodic podcast. You can learn how at BusinessPodcasting101.com.
Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. This is your host, Emmett Muckles. This is the day the Lord has made. Wake up and be glad that you're freaking here. You are a billionaire. This is not about money. Life is not about money. Life is about experiences and the being part. You are a H-U-E, man, being, made in the image of man, people under the sun of a color. What we kind of get wrong is the being part. That's the experience. And to help you along with that, I have some wonderful guests that can probably touch your heart, touch your soul, touch your mind, and touch your business sense to help you manipulate and navigate that experience. Today, my guests are Rob and Kennedy. Now, they're coming to me from the UK, so it's probably at 7 p.m. there. And I'm just going to say hi. How you doing?
We're doing good. Hello.
That was quite an introduction.
Wasn't it? I've never been bigged up so much.
It's you have to be that. That's what I think of you. I think of you as a grandiose thing, a grandiose.
That's very kind.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Well, I'm there.
So you guys started your own business in ResponseSuite, right? So let's go back. What did you do before?
Oh, this is a funny story, Rob.
So our background is actually in the entertainment industry. So,
Not that kind of entertainment.
No, looking at you, I could never tell.
So I am actually a comedy stage hypnotist. So that means that for about the past 15 years, 16 years, I've been traveling all over the world, performing a comedy hypnosis show, hypnotizing people, making them do crazy, crazy things. And about that long ago, we actually met at a conference for magicians, of all things, one of the weirdest events you can possibly imagine, because you actually are a
mind reader. Yeah, I combine psychology, body language. In the States, you call what I do a mentalist. And yeah, I combine psychology, body language, understanding people with stand-up comedy, make people laugh and figure out what they're thinking. The funny thing, yeah, it's pretty unusual. The weirdest thing about all of this is it sounds really glamorous, traveling to all corners of the world, to Canada, the US, to obviously doing shows in the UK and doing things over in Dubai and stuff. All this sounds great. The only thing that's really interesting about that in terms of between gigs is you actually spend more time traveling to a gig or waiting to do a gig than doing a gig. So even if you're doing 2, 3, or 4 shows a week, you're still only on stage for maybe 90 minutes, maybe 60 minutes.
Yeah.
The rest of the time you're trying to get there or you're waiting to go on stage, and that gives you a load of free time. And that's sort of where we both ended up independently starting our own online businesses to really multiply our income based on leveraging the spare time we had.
And we actually didn't talk about it. We were really good friends, but we never actually talked about it.
Like closet entrepreneurs.
Closetpreneurs, yeah. I realized that I was doing hypnosis and that I could sell training to people who wanted to be hypnotists. So I started to do that and built a business, built an email list, started doing email marketing, that kind of thing. And at the same time, you'd been kind of headhunted by other entertainers who saw what you were doing and were like, why has he got so many gigs? Why do I not have any gigs? Why is he being paid more for a gig than I'm being paid for a gig? Why is he doing gigs for the clients I want to do gigs for? And they started to pester you to teach them the ways.
So I ended up launching a coaching program and an online membership program where I help other entertainers build their businesses, figure out what cash flow is, because we're all artists, aren't we?
Yeah.
We all We're all the technician of doing what we love doing, and we didn't get into any of this to run a business particularly. So, but I sort of naturally found a forte for applying the skills of being a performer into the world of how do you get gigs and how do you negotiate fees and position yourself so you can attract really good fees. So yeah, ended up running this membership site, which I still run to this day, helping other entertainers to do that and do better. And I got such a thrill from doing that. All of that culminated in us independently requiring a tool to help us to understand our customers and potential customers better. Right. Because there's nothing more annoying or frustrating for any of us than receiving messages or emails from people which are totally irrelevant to us. Look, if you send me an email which is about why I should put an extension on my home in Florida, then I'm going to be pretty upset about that because I don't live anywhere near Florida and I don't want an extension to my home.
Right.
Whereas if you send me a message which is about a really good hair product, now you've got my attention, right?
Yeah.
Because it's something I might be interested in. So this all comes from a place of, hey, how do we understand people?
So,
and how do we?
So how did you two come together though? I mean, like, that's a big thing when, to collaborate. For one, there's a couple things that came up. Most of the time, entertainers are really shitty business people.
Sure.
Because I'm a musician and I was a DJ. The DJ part showed me the business.
Yep.
The musician part just made me want to get creative, get girls, and drink a lot.
Yep.
So you know how it is. Mm-hmm. But how did you guys come to say, hey, how did you collaborate to say ResponseSuite is the thing that we need to do?
So it actually came about because when we were running our independent businesses, I was actually going to run a survey to my audience, to my list, to find out what actually they wanted. Because I was like, there's a bunch of stuff I could create and sell. But if I did, I'd just be guessing. So I should really ask them what they want. So I sent out a survey and I said, are you interested in this or this or this or this? Sort of subtopics within my, my niche or niche, as they would say over on the other side of the pond. And what happened was when I sent out that survey, I realized I had a bit of a problem. And that was that when I asked them what they wanted, I got a bunch of different replies back. Like 40% of people said one thing, and then 30% of people said another thing, and then 20% of people said something else, and 10% of them said something else. And when I looked at it, I was like, oh, crap. Because now I've got all these people who said different things. I don't know who the 40% are who said this thing, or the 30%, or the 20%. I'm rounding the numbers, but that was roughly what it was. And I was like, well, I just don't know what the solution is. And I actually called Kennedy. I was like, dude, do you know of a survey platform that will integrate with my email marketing platform so that the two things will actually work together? Or better still, do you know a way of I can do it quickly? Do you know how I can do that now? And he was like, no, but oddly enough, he was looking for a similar solution for a completely different reason. And so I said, well, let's dig around because there must be one. I need one. You need one. If you find it, let me know. Right. So we both went out searching and I just assumed this must exist. I was using a survey platform and I contacted them even and said, is this a thing that you can do or planning to do? And they said, no, it's just not really important. I was like, but why? It just doesn't make any sense. If we're asking people for feedback and then that feedback is completely anonymous and we don't know who they are, it just didn't make sense to me that didn't exist. And so over the next kind of couple of years, we did two things. First of all, I very naively thought that I could start a software company by taking about $2,000-$3,000, throwing it at some freelance workers on the other side of the world and getting them to build a platform that would do all the stuff we needed it to do. So I quickly realized that I'd wasted $3,000 and that didn't work. Yeah. And then the next thing was we said, okay, in that case, we'll have to just do it manually, right? So we'll just have to manually do this. So we'll talk about that process as we go through maybe, but basically let's download survey responses and manually sort them in spreadsheets and re-upload them into our email platforms. And we sort of did that for about the next 4 or 5 years. And it worked really, really well. It did almost everything we wanted it to do.
You didn't have to do any coding?
No. So literally we logged in, we downloaded CSV files of spreadsheets, we'd sort them into the different kind of pots, if you like, and then upload them back into the email platform. And that worked fine. Eventually, very, very soon, we handed the job over to virtual assistants and let them take care of it because it's just, that sort of admin.
By the end of this, what we ended up with is basically people taking surveys, telling us what their interests are, and then we would upload that information into our email marketing system. So now we knew what each and every single person was interested in in. Now we can put the perfect offer, the perfect email in front of every single person. That means we can make more sales and we can serve people better.
You know, I really have to ask you guys this particular question because it is such a struggle for people who are getting into an online business. It could be an online or an offline business, which is finding access to the customers or building their list. Do you guys have any strategies for like a newbie who is building their list?
I mean, the biggest thing you can do is think about, for the audience that you are wanting to build, first of all, you absolutely need to understand who that audience is. The biggest reason most people fail to build their list, to build their audience, to build their email list is because they don't know exactly who they're targeting. And once you know exactly who you're targeting, make sure it really is niched down. Make sure it's really focused. So you know what their needs are. You know what their frustrations are, their fears are, and what their motivators are. You know what they're frustrated with. And then put together something that's small, easy to consume, that solves the biggest challenge that they have. So, really easy thing. For example, I was on LinkedIn this morning and I noticed somebody giving away a top 10 tips cheat sheet for making really good engaging videos on social media. And I was like, that's really interesting. I'm going to go check that out. So I click on that and then I pop over, and on this page it says, if you want this, it's not for sale. All you need to do is give me your email address and I'll email it to you. I'm like, cool. All right, I'll do that. Because right now that's relevant to me because I'm doing some research around how people use video. I'm sort of be using that research in a sort of a slightly different way, but that's really interesting to me right now. Think about what's the most compelling, what's the most interesting thing to your audience, your potential audience that you want to reach. Package it up into something small. Don't take too much time over it. You want it to be like less than 1,000 words. You want it to be really snappy, really easy. Put it together, make it look gorgeous because people really care how things look.
Yeah, they do.
It's got to look great. The days of ugly works kind of doesn't work. Ask Rob, he's ugly.
But equally, gone are the days of packaging together your 10-hour video course that's valued at $997 and giving that away for free too. There's no need like a one-page checklist or. But
the next real key is not just to get the people on your list. And this is what's really important. There's a really easy assumption. Let's say, for example, a ResponseSuite customer we have. She has, I'm going to use the example of a lady who is a social media marketing guru. Okay. She absolutely knows her social media. She teaches it. She helps people do it. She does strategies on it. She'll do it for you. She has a lot of different offerings. When people put their email address in and say, hey, I really want your checklist on the things I should be doing on my social media, like 10 different types of status updates that really engage people or something, it's really easy for her to assume she knows what those people are like. Yeah. She might assume, right, all these people are interested in social media, so they all want the same product. They all want the same solution. Well, of course they don't. Think about it. So we've got Rob over there who's so busy. He's busy running ResponseSuite, and when he's not in the office here, he's off doing a hypnosis show. Rob really needs somebody to do his social media for him. Whereas you might have someone like, I don't know, Grace, who works for us here in our office, who she doesn't want someone to do the social media for her because that's her job.
Right.
What she wants is someone to help her write a strategy for the ResponseSuite social media. So she's got a very different need to Rob.
Likewise, somebody who's just made their first Instagram account and they're like, okay, great, where do I get my first 10 followers besides my mum? Like, how do I do that? They need something very different from someone who's got 1 million followers, but those people aren't buying anything.
So the first thing we do is make sure you don't treat everybody the same. Once you've figured out why they should all join your mailing list, a really compelling reason that overcomes their biggest fear, their biggest struggle right now, the first thing we recommend people do is run what we've sort of named this crazy name called the Alpha Survey. It's called the Alpha Survey because it's the first thing you do when someone joins your mailing list. And all you're going to do, rather than doing what everybody else out there does, is we're going to do what marketing does. Remember, marketing's job is to stand out against the crowd, right?
Yeah.
So what you're going to do is you're going to break through the normal thing, because what you're expecting, I've just joined your mailing list. What am I expecting you to do? I'm expecting you to try and sell me something. Imagine if you didn't. Imagine if instead you email me saying, hey, Kennedy, thank you so much for joining my list. I hope you enjoy the book you just downloaded. While we're waiting to sort of get to know each other a bit further, Could I ask you 3 really quick questions? I've put together a quick 3-question survey. I want to know what you need right now, where you're at, and how I can help you.
Ooh, that's the bomb.
Right? That's it right there. And that changes everything, right?
That's wow. That's like a man going to his wife and saying, "Sweetie, what can I really do to help you?"
That's exactly it. And instead of being like sales, instead of being like marketing, you're going to people and having human-to-human relationship and saying, "Hello, I know you're a person. What do you want help with?" And now when they complete the survey, imagine they go over and one of the questions is, what do you really need help with right now? Do you need help with someone doing your social media for you like Rob needs? Or do you need help with putting together a social media strategy?
Yeah.
Maybe those are your only 2 options. Maybe they're the only 2 things you do.
And then
right?
you might ask something else like, who are you within the business? Are you the entrepreneur who owns it? Are you somebody who works there as a job? Are you somebody who's trying to do this as a freelance business?
Bang on, exactly.
You know, and
so
you
now let's...
And you guys have really just given me, you know, like these questions that I had, like how can a survey really power your marketing and sales process? Because
this is it
literally, because now it's not gimme. Because you know those campaigns that come at you because you're waiting for the $997 pitch. You're like, or the join my mastermind group, blah, 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 blah. Instead of saying, how can I really help you? But feedback is becoming more and more of an item because people are developing relationships. As a matter of fact, I'm, putting together my own item because I don't want to touch everybody. I want to touch the people that need to be touched by me.
Right.
I want the people who can use my specific skills to enhance their lives. Hence the billionaire lifestyle, because we're all part of one collective if we can all just get synergetic. How does this integrate with WordPress, with all these other items, these other platforms, or are they in competition with some of these platforms that people may be currently using? Right.
So what's really important is that the reason most businesses fail is because they have an isolated approach rather than a joined up approach, right?
Yeah.
Basically, what happens is you're like doing some Twitter over there, and then over the other direction, you've got a blog on WordPress, and then over somewhere else, you're running a survey, and over there, you've got email marketing, and none of that's talking to each other. And that's the reason that I don't want to keep bleating on about ResponseSuite, but it's the reason we created it, right? It's interesting. I mean, obviously, you're asking really good questions, which is why it all relates back to ResponseSuite. Very good. Thank you for that. But what happens is somebody completes your survey, and let's say you're using, I don't know, MailChimp, or you're using ActiveCampaign, or one of those email marketing tools. Because ResponseSuite, rather than standing alone as a solitary person in an isolated island, it connects with your email marketing system. So now it becomes one system. So when someone responds to your survey, that triggers actions to happen in your email marketing. So when Rob fills in that survey and says, I really need help with somebody to fix my social media and do it for me, what happens is the next day, Rob gets an email from my email marketing system, MailChimp, whatever, which says, Rob, yesterday you told me you needed to have some help with your social media. Shall we set up a call and make that happen for you? Rob's getting a personalized experience, and it's a joined up experience. The alternative to that, if everything was like in competition with each other, was you'd have a competing message, which would be Rob fills in the survey, and he says, I need help with someone doing my social media. The next day, Rob would get an email from me going, hi, Rob, would you like to buy my social media training course? Rob hasn't got time to study the course. Rob hasn't got time to implement the course. If only I had listened to the response he made in that survey, and I'd offered him the thing he wants, he'd now be a customer.
The way that most businesses work with all this stuff, we're sort of operating like independent little islands floating around, is that somebody's browsing the internet and they see you on Facebook. Maybe they see your Facebook ad, right? So they see a Facebook ad and they say, okay, great, that looks interesting. I'll click on that. And then it takes them over to this landing page, and they go ahead and they opt in. So now they're on your list, or they've registered for a webinar, or they've done something. So now they're in your list. That's great. Well, now what happens is that they now receive whatever you were going to be sending out by email the following day anyway. right? They receive whatever email is. So if you're in the middle of like a 7-day campaign, the first email they're going to receive from you, or one of the first emails they're going to receive, might be day 3 of a campaign that they've missed the beginning of, and therefore it hasn't had the full effect it was supposed to have because they didn't see the warm-up pieces or any of that stuff. They've just joined in and they've got the email you were going to be sending on Wednesday, the 31st of March, because that's the day they happen to opt in, the day after they happen to opt in, and none of it makes sense.
You guys came together as a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of different in the scape of the world today because there are so many solopreneurs.
Sure.
There's so many people who are doing it on their own, and they are grabbing virtual workers from here, there, and everywhere. What has been the challenges as a partnership being in business together?
I think Rob probably finds it challenging that he's not the best looking person in the office anymore.
But at least I prefer that I have the best hair. So, it swings and roundabouts.
It is.
We haven't had any major challenges working together other than, I suppose, it's not really a challenge. We argue pretty much every day.
That's a good thing, though.
But we don't.
Yes, we do. So you did that. Very funny.
It's very good.
So we have these massive rows every day because we're really good friends, but very different people.
I have a friend like that.
The things we like, we got a lot of similarities, but in terms of like taste about stuff, we tend to.
I have taste.
we like if you said to me, here's an apple, go and write a sales letter for this apple. The sales letters you get back from him and me would be nowhere near the same. They wouldn't have any similarities at all.
So who's the tiebreaker when you guys get into these little trysts about things?
The staff.
Yeah, our staff. Yeah.
Like literally, actually, we will have a row about something, and then at the end of it, we'll take it to them because we are an entirely in-house company. So everything happens in this office. It's not like we've on opposite sides of the world or anything. So if we have an argument about something, we will take it to them and say, "What do you think?" And typically, we actually go with the general majority because we don't really have much of a hierarchy. And obviously, we own the business, but we try and have as little hierarchy as possible.
We have an interesting culture of what's called radical transparency, which is there is nothing that our staff don't know about the business.
Ooh.
Nothing. They know exactly what we get paid. They know exactly how much the company's making. They know exactly what's happening next. They know everything. What does that do? That creates a really flat culture, a really flat hierarchy where everybody is responsible and everybody is also a champion for the business, which means we're all driving towards the same one goal. We all want it to do really, really well because we all know as we step forward, it's not just Rob and I who reap the benefits. We all reap the benefits together. So everybody does like overtime and we don't pay for it. Everybody goes above and beyond and has their own ideas. There's freedom to say, I think that's a terrible idea.
It's
There's
ownership.
freedom to say, I've got a different idea. There's freedom to say, I was researching this thing and I've done this thing. Just on Friday of this week, Grace, who's our content marketing and partner coordinator here, she said, I hope it's okay, but I emailed this really massive company about ResponseSuite. And we're like, of course that's okay. But she did it without asking beforehand because she knows she has that ability and that freedom to be creative. There's so many businesses, so many people are employed by employers who have to stand in their big ivory tower just to justify their own egos. Like, Rob and I get our ego stroking when we get the applause when we go on stage. We don't bring that. We don't need that in the office.
Equally, we don't sit in some little cubicle that's on the other side of the office or in a different room either. So Kennedy sits like here, literally where we're standing. I sit diagonally opposite on the other side of the room, and the staff are in the middle, but in our own little islands.
Yeah, so our islands are set up so that there's me on one island with Grace, and then on the other island is Rob with Colin, who's our founding developer. And as the business grows, that's what's going to stay like. We're making it so that everything is flat, everyone's equal. We're not on a separate office. We're not even on a separate like manager's table. Do you remember when you were at school? There was always the teacher's table in the dining room. It's not like that.
Right.
You know, we get to eat the same food they do.
When did you guys decide to make this a legal entity? Did you say, hey, we're just going to try this and see if it works? or did you?
No.
Or what was your strategy for that?
Said for commitment, right?
Yeah, so we decided after 4 or 5 years, as I said earlier, we were doing it all in our own businesses manually, downloading CSV files and uploading them to our email platform. And we thought, you know what, this is crazy. First of all, we're slowly building up a bigger and bigger bill over a period of time that we're paying to our virtual assistants to do the work. And eventually that's going to amount up to be a huge amount of money that we've paid. But also, like, if we can't be the only people who need this, other businesses definitely need this as well. And we literally said, let's build it as a software platform. Let's make it a thing that other people are able to use. And that week, we made the decision to do it, formed a company. We already had this office, actually not this room, but a different room in the same building. Yeah. Because we shared the office for our own businesses, just so we had somewhere away from home to come and work. And we said, nope, let's do it. We'll go full steam ahead. And we formed the company legally and plowed ahead straight away.
You know, one thing that I really do like is I like your color branding. It's really comfortable to me. The blues and the gray and the white. It's really, that was the one thing I saw. I was like, God, they did it great. They did it so, I mean, it just works. One thing that I will ask, how did you pick your hair color, Rob?
So mine
How the hell
was.
did you pick that?
It was a completely random
Were you in
decision.
the Ronald McDonald fan club?
I was about 19 and I lived in
19, not 9.
Nope, 19. I lived with a friend, and one day we shared a flat, and I literally said, I'm going to go and dye my hair red. And I walked into town because I lived in the middle of a city. So I walked into town and literally walked to.
Were you living in the UK, or was it when you were living in Greece?
This was in Sunderland in the UK.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. About 20 minutes.
I didn't know the story.
Yeah. I literally walked into town. I walked to the first hair salon I walked past that was open. I walked in. I didn't need an appointment. There was nobody in, which now I think back, that should have been a warning sign. Actually, Gary, who I lived with, was with me. We both went in, and because he like, you're not going to do this. I went in, and I said to the guy, I said, I want to dye my hair bright red. And he said, okay, we'll have to bleach it blonde first, because otherwise it won't work, and then we'll dye it red.
You should have stopped there.
Which isn't true, it turns out, years later. So I went in and sat down, and he said, right, crack on. So starts pasting this peroxide stuff onto my hair, comes out looking like him for a little bit, and then paint red on top of that. And that was it. And it's stuck ever since.
It works.
I think the better question would be, why?
I have no answer. Just decided to do it.
It's called just in the moment. And that's a pretty awesome thing, because so many people don't live in the moment anymore. They think everything is finite. I have to do this and I have to do that. Now, what are the top tips?
The top tips.
Hold on. Slow your roll. Pump your brakes. Top tips for converting surveys, because you can get the information and now you're like, what the heck do I do with this information? Do I parse it out? Do I put this? These are kind of like this and this is kind of like this. You know, a lot of people can get data overload.
Yeah. So it's very, very simple. Your survey, first of all, should be built in order to only serve one particular thing. So that might be, for example, if you've just had somebody subscribe to your list and you send them a survey, that survey is only there in order to serve the function of converting them from being a subscriber to being a customer. So what you need to get out of it is very different to if somebody has just registered for a webinar, for example. If somebody's just registered for a webinar and you say, okay, great, the webinar's on Tuesday, I'm looking forward to seeing you. Tell you what, before that, fill out this quick survey so I find out more about you. That survey serves a different function. That survey's job is to get them to turn up to the webinar, because that's where you're going to do the selling.
If you've just had a live event, if you just organize some kind of live event and it's a post-event survey, you might think, yes, one of my main intention, you might initially think, is to get a little bit of feedback from that. But really, your bigger intention, your commercial intention might be to get them to pre-register and buy tickets for the next event. Yeah. Biggest problem most people have with their surveys is they haven't really decided why they're doing a survey. Because truthfully, usually getting feedback is not a very good reason. No. So the first top tip, I suppose, is just work out why are you doing it and what's the commercial intent of that thing. What are you trying to move somebody towards? Yeah. So let's imagine that you're doing it because somebody has just joined your list and you need to find out what they want to buy next, so you can make sure the first thing you offer them is the thing they're actually looking for right now. So now that means the second tip is now to decide, okay, great, in that case, what do I need to know in order to sell them that thing? Because the truth is, in order to convert the survey into a sale, you have to make sure the survey is asking the right questions. Yeah. So now you have to find out, who are they? What situation are they in? What do they actually want? And what will their life look like when they've achieved that?
So you just basically went who, what, where, when, how, why.
Sort of, yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, sort of. We have a little framework for creating the questions that differs slightly from person to person, but there's only a few different possibilities. And then at the end of it, the key is to make sure that every question has a few answers they can choose from, and you make sure that you tag them or segment them inside your email list based on every single answer they give you.
So if you're going to run any survey ever, the biggest thing people talk about with us when we're doing like an onboarding call because we do that with every single ResponseSuite customer, we either Rob or myself personally work with every customer if they'd like. We don't force them. Some people might not want this, but what we do is we ask them, one of the things everyone talks about is about completion rates. They're like, but what about getting people to complete the survey? And the thing is, if it's got a single intent, you're taking them down one track, which means it's not confusing and taking them off in different directions. So their brain's tuned along that one slippery slope. That's the first thing, which is what Rob just talked about. The second thing is, don't let them have to think too much. As soon as somebody has to think, and that usually means they have to type something, they'll go, oh, I need to think about that. As soon as they need to do that, you just dropped your completion rate. Instead, remove as many, if not all, of the typing questions and replace them with clicking questions. That's multiple choice, that's single checkbox, something like that. Give people choices rather than giving them the time to think. The other reason to do that, by the way, apart from completion rate, is because if you present the choices, you're in charge and you're controlling the journey. If you say, hey, what's your biggest problem right now? You might go, oh, I don't know. I was out fixing the roof all day and I'm feeling a bit hot and sweaty. I could really do with some deodorant. But I'm like, I don't care about that. No, you don't smell. I can't smell you from here. You're good. In fact, you smell fabulous. But in reality, if I go back to that social media example, you telling me you need deodorant is of no use to me, and I can't help you with that. Whereas if I say, what's your biggest challenge right now? Is it 1, having the time to do your social media? Is it 2, knowing what to do with your social media? Is it 3, having a strategy for your social media? I can now do something with it.
Do you have trainings for this, for how to use your platform?
So we do, actually. We give away, most people sell the trainings. That's interesting to us.
That is interesting.
Because we own the platform, we give our training away for free when people take a trial. Even if people take a 14-day free trial of ResponseSuite, as soon as you log in, down the left-hand side, you'll see there's a thing called trainings. And in there, we have like an 8 different strategies. It's a 4-module course called the Survey Marketing Masterclass, where we actually show you 8 different campaigns, 8 different ways of using this to get better results across lots of different things in your life and your business. So yeah, and we give it away. Even if those people don't keep ResponseSuite for whatever reason, you've still got the knowledge anyway. So yeah, we have the trainings.
Do you have affiliate programs?
We do have an affiliate program.
Oh, you didn't expect that question, did you?
That was good. Yeah, actually, do you know what it is? Affiliates are a huge part of our business, and that's why Grace, who I mentioned before, she usually sits right behind where you are right now, usually right opposite me, staring at me, looking at why you're answering it like that. But her job is content and partner coordinator, and partner is our name for affiliates because we rely on our affiliates. Our partners are the key to the growth and the key to our success with ResponseSuite because they've got such good reach and good relationships with people. And we believe that any business, in fact, life, is actually just about creating really good relationships with people. And if you have really good relationships in your personal life with your friends and with your spouse or with your partner, then your life's going to be great. And the same as in business. You can't build an empire in isolation without everything else. You can't do it. So that's why we rely on our partners so heavily.
Business is 100% a team sport, even if you are a solopreneur. You still have a team around you. Your accountant, the tax man, believe it or not. Everyone's on your team.
So I see that you guys have a podcast on your website. Is that you guys doing it, or is it?
Yeah. So we've been running, it's called 3 Marketers Walk Into a Podcast.
Because that's witty.
Because, we're hilarious. And every single week we talk to a different world-class marketer about a really specific topic. And I'll tell you a little secret about it. The reason we do it is because we get to ask world-class marketers the questions we want to ask without having to pay their consultancy fees.
Right.
And then we just get to share that with the world as well. So that's really cool too. But so we do record it and we put it out every week, and we have a fantastic production team who work on that for us.
That explains the fabulous equipment you have.
Well, I think we're a big fan of if you're going to do something, do it properly and
much like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you've got all the kit.
I have got oodles. I am a tech freak. You
love it.
I love it. And I love to explain it to people. And I love to see I'd love to see aha moments in anything. Someone says,
right.
I hate, it goes up my car when someone says, I can't.
Right.
It's like you can do anything. It just may not be the way you think you are going to do it. Well, but exactly. you can achieve anything. Hey guys, I really want to thank you for being on the podcast. And as I said, this video is the most awesome video I've ever produced. I'm just going to give you that. You guys are, as we say over here in the States, you guys are balling out of control.
Wow, that's a new one. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. It's been lovely speaking with you.
You have to say that. When you take your team out and you spend too much money, you say, hey guys, tonight we're going to ball out of control. Just remember, don't put drugs in your cocaine. Hey, as I said, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Where can everyone find your information?
You can, of course, find us on all of the social medias at ResponseSuite. We are particularly active on Facebook and Instagram, more than any others. But actually, if you want to check out ResponseSuite, if the idea of running surveys in your business is something you'd like to do and we've inspired you in any respect, we've actually got a really cool little deal that you kind of mentioned actually earlier for listeners of the podcast. So instead of just getting a 14-day free trial, we'd love to give you that survey marketing masterclass that he mentioned before. And we'd love to give you the one-on-one onboarding with us, the way that we love to do with all the customers. So in order to get that, what you need to do is to head over to this URL, which is responsesuitedeal.com/billionaire. So that's ResponseSuite.
Get money, baby.
responsesuitedeal.com/billionaire. And obviously, ResponseSuite is like SUITE, not like candy.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody would actually spell it that way. Well, this is how we conclude the podcast, everyone. Remember, when you wake up in the morning, you take a shower. When you get out the shower, it could be even before you go to bed. When you get out the shower, drop your towel and bask in the glory of how you came to this planet. Now, I want you to really take it in, because you can't love anybody else until you love yourself. You have to love yourself. Life is not about money. It is about the experience. We are human beings. Whether you're male or female, we're still the yin and the yang, and it's all in us. So that's how that goes. But as you finish basking in your glory, go over to the mirror, and I want you to look into the eyes of the person in the mirror. That is you. And I want you to get close, and I want you to see the little things that spread and let light in and close. Those are like nebulae in the sky. As above, so below. The things that you think can manifest on this planet. As above, so below. If you think you're not a billionaire, because I get so many people who say, I'm not a billionaire, and I say, you're lying. Because stick out your hand and look at it. That's your hand, right? Yes. They always respond with yes. And I says, turn it back and forth, look at all of it. Now I want you to look at the longest finger down to where your hand meets your wrist. That's yours, right? They say yes. And I say, that is filled with cells, which is where we get the self. And those are your cells. There's epidermis, there's blood cells, there's ligaments, there's a lot of things, and there's at least a billion there. If you still don't believe you're a billionaire, let's go back to your beginning. 30 days after one cell met another and the energy from the universe came to make their dance, there was a billion cells, because that's 2 to the power of 30. So you're already rich. Now live that life. Love you all. Peace.